planting trees. Somehow it wasn't about the forest, it was about the trees. And that is where things started to go wrong. It nearly finished all of our careers.
Everybody loves the idea of planting trees. It sounds like the easiest climate fix ever. Dig a hole, drop a sapling, save the planet. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Planting trees the wrong way can make forests weaker instead.
Large-scale planting projects have high failure rates, and some of them do more harm than good for the climate.
Some new forests look green from far away, but up close, they can be silent and easy to destroy. And now the US is running into a problem nobody expected. The lie of planting trees. Over the last 2 decades, countries around the world have pledged to plant billions of trees. China alone reports tens of millions of acres reforested. India runs some of the largest planting drives on the planet. Even in the United States, federal programs promise billions of new trees to fight climate change. On paper, global forest cover appears to be growing again. But here's the part most people don't hear. Forests are dying in plain sight. But the reason might not be what first comes to your mind. It isn't just chainsaws or bulldozers. In many places, the real problem is the way we plant trees. For decades, environmental experts have said that restoring forests is one of the hardest climate challenges we face. The issue isn't that we're planting too few trees, it's that we're planting them the wrong way. Nearly half of all new restored forests are actually monoculture plantations. That means huge areas filled with just one fast-growing species, one type of tree, planted over and over again. From far away, these places look green and healthy, but up close, they don't behave like real forests. Over the last century, the US Forest Service has planted pine trees in straight rows, spaced about 10 to 11 feet apart. It looks organized, efficient, controlled, but natural forests don't grow in straight lines. They grow in clusters, with different species competing and supporting each other. These plantations are built for speed. They are designed to grow fast and be harvested for wood products. The goal is production, not biodiversity. It's closer to farming than true forest restoration. By the early 21st century, this model spread across the world. Europe and North America ran out of easy land to plant, so companies moved operations to developing countries. Governments supported the idea: plant trees, avoid cutting native forests, and boost the economy. A few years later, harvest the trees, and start again. On paper, it looks like progress. In reality, many of these forests are stuck in a cycle: plant, cut, repeat, without ever becoming fully functioning ecosystems. Before we continue, time for something interesting. Breaking news claims that Donald Trump secretly approved a classified weather experiment over a remote forest. Witnesses reported strange beams of light striking the trees, followed by unusual mist rising from the ground. Officials deny everything, but leaked images are spreading online. Conspiracy theorists believe a powerful climate control project has just been activated somewhere in the wilderness. The problem at hand. The core problem is simple: monocultures. When a forest is made of only one species, it becomes what some experts call a green desert. It may look alive, but it lacks the diversity that makes ecosystems strong. Fewer birds, fewer insects, fewer plants are growing beneath the canopy. The trees are there, but much of the life that depends on forests is missing. This isn't just theory. In the early 1990s, logging companies in Canada followed the same approach. After harvesting the land, they replanted it with single-species forests. The system seemed efficient. Plant trees, wait, cut them down, repeat. At the time, few people questioned the long-term risks. Then, in May 1st, 2016 disaster struck. A massive wildfire tore through Fort McMurray, Alberta. Nearly 2,400 homes were destroyed. Around 100,000 people had to evacuate. More than 1.5 million acres burned. The damage reached $7.4 billion, making it the most expensive disaster in Canadian history. The forest that burned was packed with spruce trees. Spruce contains flammable sap, and these plantations were planted tightly together. Many had been placed on drained swampland, which made the ground drier than it should have been. Thick canopies blocked sunlight and limited moisture on the forest floor. When heat and wind arrived, conditions were perfect for fire. Fort McMurray was not an isolated event. Around the world, single-species plantations show the same weaknesses. They burn faster. They spread disease more easily. They struggle to adapt to drought and extreme weather. Planting trees sounds like a solution. But when forests are built for speed and profit instead of resilience, they can collapse quickly. And many people never see the risk until it is too late. They see green from a distance and assume everything is fine. But a forest built like a factory doesn't fail slowly. When it fails all at once. Forests that burn like gasoline. Some forests look strong from a distance, but the danger is how they are planted. Take black spruce in Canada. These trees are often planted 6 feet apart in perfectly straight rows. The spacing looks organized and efficient, but that layout can turn a forest into fuel. Firefighters sometimes call black spruce gas on a stick because it burns so easily. The tree produces flammable sap, and its cones are filled with resin. When exposed to heat, those cones open and release seeds into the burned soil. That helps the species regrow after fire, but it also means the tree is built to survive flames, not prevent them. In natural forests, black spruce rarely grows alone. It mixes with aspen, poplar, and other trees that hold more moisture. Those species act like natural fire breaks. They slow the flames down. They reduce intensity. Diversity creates resistance. But when black spruce is planted by itself in dense rows, that protection disappears. One spark can move quickly from tree to tree. Add dry air, strong winds, and rising temperatures, and the fire spreads even faster. The same pattern shows up with ponderosa pines. When planted tightly for faster production, they stay vulnerable to fire for decades. Only after 60 to 80 years do their crowns grow high enough to better survive flames. Before that, a single ignition can turn the plantation into a fast-moving blaze. These forests may look productive, they may look like progress, but their structure makes them unstable, especially as climates grow hotter and drier, and fire is only the beginning. The green deserts no one talks about. Fire is just one weakness. Monoculture forests can damage entire ecosystems even when nothing burns. Meadows and prairies often suffer first. Fast-growing plantations like pine or eucalyptus pull large amounts of water from the ground. As they grow, they lower water tables, shrink streams, and sometimes dry out nearby rivers. These trees form dense canopies that block sunlight from reaching the soil. Without light and moisture, grasses and wild plants struggle to survive. Meadows normally act like natural sponges. They absorb water during heavy rain and release it slowly over time. When plantations replace them, that balance changes. Flooding becomes more common. Soil erosion increases. What once helped stabilize the land starts to disappear. At first glance, these forests can look healthy. The trees are tall. The rows are straight. Everything appears orderly. But spend time there, and you notice something missing. Fewer birds, fewer insects, fewer shrubs are growing underneath. It's green, but it's quiet. Because the trees are planted at the same time and grow at similar speeds, the forest floor stays heavily shaded. Very few plants can compete in that environment. Soil nutrients decline. Diseases spread more easily. Pests like spruce beetles or certain fungi move quickly through single-species forests because every tree around them is a suitable host. There are economic risks too. These plantations are designed for profit, but when disease or drought hits, many trees can weaken at once. Landowners often rush to harvest before losses grow worse. If too many sell at the same time, timber prices fall and expected profits shrink. Monoculture forests look organized and efficient, but they are fragile systems. When conditions change, the collapse can spread quickly, and this is still only part of the story. When forest collapse is a good thing, Germany's forests are collapsing, and for once, some ecologists are not panicking. Not long ago, Germany's hills were covered in tall, dark spruce trees. The landscape looked like something from a storybook. Today, many of those same hills are gray and bare. The shift is dramatic, and the cause is surprisingly small. Walk up to a dying spruce tree and you'll see tiny holes drilled into its bark. Those holes were made by bark beetles. Rangers now discover damaged or dead trees almost every day. Forests still cover about 1/3 of Germany, but federal studies show that 79% of those trees are damaged, stressed, or already dead. Entire sections of woodland now stand silent and pale. Bark beetles are tiny, but their impact is massive. They tunnel into trees and release chemicals that attract others. After mating, females lay eggs inside the trunk. A single pair can produce up to 1,000 offspring in a year. That is how infestations spread so quickly. But this crisis did not start with the beetles. It started more than a century ago. During the 19th century and after World War II, Germany planted spruce trees in huge numbers. The country needed timber to rebuild cities and even to pay war reparations. Spruce grew fast, straight, and strong. It was perfect for construction and paper. Over time, about 1/4 of Germany's forests became dominated by spruce. Beech and oak forests were replaced. diversity was pushed aside. Speed and profit came first. For decades, the plan looked successful. Timber supplies increased steadily. By the early 21st century, Germany had more standing timber than at any time since the Middle Ages. Spruce seemed like a smart choice. But spruce trees demand large amounts of water. Their roots are shallow and struggle to reach deep groundwater, and that is an issue. But why spruce? Many were planted in areas where they did not naturally belong. As droughts intensified and storms became more frequent, these trees weakened. Healthy spruce can defend themselves with resin that seals insect holes, but stressed trees produce less resin. Once weakened, they become easy targets. Beetles chew through the layers that carry water and nutrients up the trunk. From the outside, a tree may still look alive. Inside, it is drying out and dying. This damage cannot be reversed. Since 2018, more than 740,000 acres of forest in Germany have died from beetles and drought. That equals more than 2.5% of the country's total forest area. Rangers try to slow the spread by cutting infected trees, but once infestations take hold, they rarely stop at one tree. And yet, here's the unexpected part. Some ecologists see opportunity in this collapse. What is dying is not a natural, diverse forest. It is a vast monoculture built for industry. As spruce trees fall, sunlight reaches the soil again. Native species begin to return. Beech, oak, and other local trees sprout naturally. The land is slowly reclaiming itself. The loss is painful to watch, but it reveals a deeper lesson. Forests designed for profit alone are fragile. When diversity disappears, resilience disappears with it. Germany's crisis is not just about beetles. It is about what happens when efficiency replaces ecology. And the same model has been copied around the world. Similar weaknesses are building quietly in other forests, waiting for drought, pests, or fire to push them past the breaking point. The question is no longer whether collapse can happen, it's where it will happen next. The beetle that saved the forest. The villain just switched sides. In several German national parks, thousands of spruce trees have died. But forest rangers are not treating this as the end. Some of them see the bark beetle not only as a pest, but as an unexpected helper. Here's why. Humans planted huge areas of spruce that never truly belonged there. These were artificial forests, built for timber and profit. They replaced mixed forests that once included beech, oak, and other native species. Over time, that lack of diversity weakened the land. Then the beetles arrived and tore through the monoculture. What looks like destruction may actually be a reset. The old spruce stands are gone, and now, for once, people are stepping back. No large-scale replanting, no straight rows, no heavy machines are reshaping the soil. The land is being left alone. 2 years ago, some of these areas looked lifeless. Today, grass covers the ground. Shrubs are spreading. Young trees are rising naturally. Birds have returned. Seeds travel by wind and animals. Fallen trunks remain where they dropped, creating shelter for insects and small mammals. Dead wood holds moisture and slowly feeds new growth as it breaks down. Nature is rebuilding. Forest workers believe that within 10 to 20 years, many of these areas could become true natural forests again. Mixed species, balanced growth, real biodiversity. Not plantations designed for quick harvest, but ecosystems shaped by time and competition. This doesn't mean every area will recover perfectly. Some places struggle. In certain cases, limited human guidance may still help. But the main lesson is restraint. When people interfere too aggressively, they repeat the same mistakes. When they step back, natural systems often repair themselves. And that realization changes everything. The only way this actually works. Planting has not stopped, but the strategy is changing. Park managers are still putting trees into the ground. The difference is what they plant and how they plant it. Instead of covering hills with spruce, they are reintroducing species that historically belonged there. Beech, oak, and plane trees are returning. These species are better adapted to the local soil and climate. Many grow deeper roots, allowing them to survive drought more effectively. In theory, officials could simply wait and let nature handle everything. Given enough time, forests would regenerate on their own. But waiting decades feels risky, especially when jobs and local economies depend on forestry. So the new approach is cautious guidance. Before planting at scale, scientists create small test plots. Different tree species are planted in limited sections. Researchers observe which ones adapt best. They monitor soil health, moisture levels, and growth patterns. It is slower and more expensive than the old model. Each species carries its own challenges, but this method respects how ecosystems actually function. The stakes are high. Germany's forestry sector generates roughly 170 billion annually and supports more than 1.1 million jobs. If forests fail, entire communities feel the impact. Repeating monoculture mistakes would mean fewer healthy forests, weaker timber markets, and long-term economic losses. This new playbook aims to balance ecology and economy, protect biodiversity, protect livelihoods. And if this strategy works in Germany, it suggests something larger. Forest die-off is not always the end. Sometimes it is a turning point. And that raises a bigger question. Is the United States beginning to realize the same thing? The billion-dollar tree promise. Around the world, countries have promised to bring forests back. In 1969, dozens of nations signed agreements aimed at stopping the destruction of natural woodlands and restoring damaged farmland. The target was massive. Restore 865 million acres by 2030. That is more land than the entire country of India. On paper, it looked like a major win for the planet. Some countries moved quickly. Pakistan became the first to meet its commitments. India is close behind, working to restore nearly 24.7 million acres. China has launched large-scale planting programs. Between 2000 and 2014, Latin America added about 64,500 square miles of forest, roughly the size of Syria. From the outside, this seems like progress. Trees are being planted, farmland is recovering, forest cover appears to be increasing, but numbers can hide important details. Planting trees is not the same as restoring forests. A forest is not just trees standing next to each other. It is a system made of different species, soil organisms, insects, birds, and animals. When restoration focuses only on speed or acreage, monocultures can quietly return. Fast-growing species like pine or eucalyptus can dominate. The land turns green, but diversity remains low. If planning is careless, the same weaknesses we've already seen can reappear on a larger scale. The success of these global promises depends on patience and careful design. The right mix of species matters. Natural growth patterns matter. If those details are ignored, decades of effort could backfire. The world is hoping this time will be different, but hope alone does not build resilient forests. China's forest gamble. China offers one of the clearest examples of how complicated large-scale reforestation can be. In 1999, Beijing banned logging in many areas and launched a massive program called Grain for Green. Farmland was converted back into forest. Millions of farmers were paid to plant trees. According to official reports, nearly 69 million acres of forest have returned. On paper, it looked like a success story. But the details tell a more complicated story. In many regions, diversity was not the priority. Natural ecosystems were replaced with vast single-species plantations, especially eucalyptus and rubber trees. These forests were green, but they functioned more like agricultural fields than natural woodlands. Then another problem emerged. Many farmers who received payments admitted they planned to cut the trees down once government support ended. The forests were tied to short-term incentives, not long-term ecological recovery. Estimates suggest that around 82% of these restored areas are artificial monocultures. Brazil shows similar patterns. Large areas counted as reforested are actually single-species plantations that lack the structure and biodiversity of natural forests. The intentions behind these programs were not malicious. Governments wanted to reduce erosion, improve land stability, and address climate concerns. But execution matters. When planting focuses on speed, convenience, or economic return, fragile systems can replace healthy ones. The lesson is clear. Planting trees at scale is possible. Building forests that truly function is much harder. And as global reforestation efforts continue, the real question becomes this: can we scale restoration without repeating the same mistakes? Because if we cannot, the next chapter of this story may look very familiar. America's tree shortage. Across the United States, governments have announced large tree planting campaigns to fight climate change. Billions of trees are being promised. The idea sounds simple: plant more forests, absorb more carbon, cool the planet. But the plan has hit a wall. And the problem is not what most people expect. It is not a wildfire. It is not beetles. It is not even monoculture design, at least not yet. The immediate problem is much simpler. There are not enough seedlings. Tree nurseries across the country cannot grow enough young trees to match the ambitious restoration goals on paper. Even more concerning, the supply of species is limited. That means if planting accelerates too quickly, forests could once again become uniform and vulnerable. The same mistakes seen in other countries could quietly return. This shortage creates a hard reality. Climate pledges depend on numbers, but forests depend on biology. You cannot scale restoration without enough diverse seeds. And even if the numbers could be met, planting only a few fast-growing species would repeat the pattern that created fragile plantations in the first place. Meanwhile, the eastern United States offers an important lesson. Despite rising global temperatures, several eastern states remain cooler than expected. For years, scientists struggled to explain why. Research released in March 2024 pointed to the region's forests. These forests were not built through rapid planting campaigns. In the late 18th century, much of the land was cleared by European settlers. By the early 1900s, only about 10% of the original old-growth trees remained. But as farmland was abandoned and populations shifted westward or into cities, forests slowly returned on their own. Over generations, trees reclaimed millions of acres. This natural regeneration took centuries. The result is a dense, diverse forest system that now acts as a climate buffer, helping keep regional temperatures lower than surrounding areas. The lesson is not that planting trees is wrong. It is that forests cannot be rushed. They require time. They require diversity. They require patience. The U.S. seedling shortage exposes a simple truth. Restoring ecosystems is more complex than making a promise. If planting moves too fast, or if variety is limited, the same fragile systems could emerge again. So the real question is no longer just how many trees we plant. It is how we plant them, and whether we are willing to slow down long enough to get it right. The U.S. stopped planting trees not because it doesn't care, but because nature refuses to be rushed. Decades of mistakes, from monocultures to overambitious plans, have shown that planting trees isn't just about digging holes and dropping saplings. Forests need time, diversity, and patience. Seedlings alone won't save the climate. Sometimes the smartest move is to step back, let nature reclaim what's been broken, and learn from the disasters that taught us why control doesn't always equal progress.